Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order this Monday, August 7th, 2023 meeting of the Pierce County Council in Monday study session. The time is 11:02 a.m. All members are present except for Councilmember Morel, who is excused. Item number 2 is review of tomorrow, August 8th, 2023 council meeting agenda. Ms. Long.
Thank you and good morning. This is tomorrow's regular council meeting agenda. It is amended. We'll start with your consent items. Under introduction and scheduling, you have one ordinance, that's 2023-28. This is relating to pet shops and regulating the sale of dogs and cats and amending chapter 5.24 of the county code. This is for referral to public safety, and you'll be setting the final on this one for September 12th. Under resolutions, you have two items for scheduling. The first is R 2023-120. This is establishing a policy and process for the display of art in council chambers and reception areas. This is for referral to rules, and you'll be setting the final on this one for August 29th. The next is R 2023-122, and this is approving the Human Services Department and Behavioral Health Advisory Board's 2024-2025 funding recommendations for the Behavioral Health and Therapeutic Courts Fund and Liquor Tax. This is for referral to Health and Human Services, and you'll be setting the final on this one for August 22nd. Under final action on your consent, you have three resolutions tomorrow. The first is R 2023-119. This is confirming the appointment of 4 new members to the Senior Center Proposal Evaluation Committee. Next is R 2023-121. This is confirming the appointment of a new member to the Pierce County Opioid Abatement Council. And R 2023-123 is confirming the removal of one existing member from the Pierce County Tourism Promotion Area Hotel Commission due to an excused non-attendance at meetings. So there are no proclamations tomorrow. We'll move right to section 8 ordinances, and you have 3 items here. The first is 2023-23. This is granting a non-exclusive franchise to the Summer Water and Supply Company for the location of water lines. This received a due pass at EIDC on July 11th. Number 2 is 2023-26, and this is affirming applications for open space classification. This is for certain properties located within incorporated boundaries of the city of Puyallup. This did not go through committee, so as you'll see, these open space proposals are going directly to council now. And number 3 is 2023-27. This is related to wage adjustments for non-represented employees of the Office of the Council, amending the salary classification plan and repealing ordinance 2004-51. This was forwarded without recommendation at rules on July 31st, and I'll just note that there is one amendment to this proposal. And those are your agenda items for tomorrow afternoon's regular meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Long. Let's look at the amendment for tomorrow's meeting. Well, I'll take questions and comments before we get to that on anything on the agenda, and then we'll get to the proposed amendment. Councilmember Krueger.
Thank you, Chair. I need to ask permission. I neglected to put forth the proclamation for the Pierce County Fair this week. I was going to try to hope to get that added on for tomorrow's 3 o'clock meeting for Pierce County Fair Week.
Is there objection to walking on the Pierce County Fair proclamation tomorrow?
Written. Yeah, we've done it in the past. We've usually done it every year. I just didn't get it written up.
Ms. Long, can you advise us on our rules?
Right, so it can be added to your amended agenda. It'll show up shaded. Again, you vote on it at the beginning of the meeting for approving your agenda. So if I'm not hearing objections, I guess we will add it and include it in the packets. If not, let me know. And again, it'll show up shaded, so it's clear that it's an added item.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Let's go to the amendment to 2023-27. Who's going to brief on this?
I will do that, but I'll certainly defer to Councilmember Denson on this one. I just handed out hard copies, and we will include electronic as well. What this proposal does is it amends one of the tables in Exhibit A to 2023-27 related to the salary classification plan for council staff grade 25 salaried. This is the council member assistant 3 grid. And what it does is it eliminates the current step 1 and adds a new step 10. That's 4% higher than what's on the existing grid. So you'll see that if you look at page 2 of 3 on your amendment, just kind of slides everything up 1 step is the idea behind this.
Councilmember Denson, did you want to speak to the amendment at this time? Councilmember Denson?
Thank you, Chair. I certainly can. So we received some new information from our Chief of Staff, Julie Murray. Thank you so much. I believe it was last week, looking at Snohomish County, which is a county Pierce County is often compared against. And there's no apples to apples, I think, comparison with what our council assistants do in relation to their staff. But the information that we received from Ms. Murray seemed like what they have there in Snohomish is the closest, and their top end is a bit higher than ours. And I also understand just from discussions, and hopefully I'm correct, that we don't have anyone at step 1, and the lowest we have, I believe right now, might be our current step 8. So this eliminates that first step where we don't have anybody anyway, so it doesn't affect them, and just adds that step. And it's also my understanding that council members have the ability to put their council assistants at whatever step they choose. So we would all still have the autonomy to do that with our own budgets. I'd be happy to have Ms. Murray give some more information. She certainly has more background on the analysis that she did, or entertain questions, but I just thought I'd bring this up for discussion so that we could have this discussion. We've got a couple of council assistants that have been here for quite some time, have a ton of experience, are certainly going beyond scheduling and making appointments for us. They're doing constituent work, they're doing public relations work. And I wanted to give us the ability to increase their pay if we feel that that's warranted.
Thank you. Ms. Murray, do you have anything to add?
Julie Murray, Chief of Staff. The only thing I would add is that I think I said in that email that the Snohomish County has engaged currently in a class and compensation study. So that range was proposed to be up to 122,000. So this would be larger than, I think, the dollars today from the original comp and class study as well, like what is currently today being paid in Snohomish County.
So right now, make sure I understand, right now, the maximum goes up to the 112,747, but they're looking at potentially increasing it to 122,000.
Yes, you're correct.
Okay, so ours would go up to 113, basically 114. So it would still be less than Snohomish.
Yeah, and again, all ranges, like you stated, are just that. It's a range, and then you have the ability to place wherever you want within that range. And so Snohomish County was increasing their range to give more flexibility to the members to determine its placement. So it's not that everyone will get 122. It's just that becomes an available option if they continue to use that grid. But they have not yet adopted it, so it's possible that they could adopt something less than that. But that was the outcome of the class and compensation study that they had performed this year.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Krueger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the ability to have the option on this, but I have to question the wisdom. My understanding is the reason we had such a good pay scale to begin with is because it's more or less can be a temporary job because they are here at the will of the member, and the member is here 4 to 8 years, and then you don't know what might be next. And so to put someone in a low paying job for a short term can be difficult. So there was a reward in that. But to change this and add on to it, I don't know that the responsibilities are changing because they're here longer. I have to consider the public perception. That's a lot of money for an assistant. It's not far from where our council member is or other elected officials. And I just question the wisdom and the perception that might create to the public by bumping this up at a time when things are just volatile. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I think the difficulty is there's no direct analogy, comparison between government. Our chief of staff is quickly done the best we can with neighboring jurisdictions in central Puget Sound. There's no exact analogy to our form of government with our research and policy staff and what most of our council assistants do, so on and so forth. It's hard to find a true apples to apples comparison, and we just have to, I think, use our best judgment as we continue to think about how we recruit and retain the workforce for us. Thank you. I'm not seeing any other questions about tomorrow's council meeting agenda. Ms. Long, I think there's no grant reports. The amendment that's on the agenda is for committee today.
Right.
So we'll discuss that as we go through committee agendas for the week. Ms. Long?
Okay, thank you. So we are on committee agendas for the week. At 1:30 this afternoon is your Community Development Committee. You have one proposal and 3 presentations on that agenda. The proposal is 2023-30. This is adopting the 2023 update to the Sustainability 2030 Pierce County's greenhouse gas reduction plan. This has a final hearing date of August 29th, and this is the one that there is an amendment in your packets to discuss. And I don't know if you want to take that amendment right now or get through the week's meetings.
Let's get through the week's meetings
Okay.
and then we'll come back.
All right, so the 3 presentations are as follows: 2024 Comprehensive Plan Update, Climate and Vulnerability Assessment Status, and this will be with Planning and Public Works. Next is the Park Natural Resource Lands Program with Parks and Recreation staff. And finally, you have park policy and rates for youth and low-income youth and families, use of facilities and programs, also with Park and Recreation staff. Tomorrow, August 8th, beginning at 9:30, you have an Economic and Infrastructure Development Committee meeting, and you have 3 presentations on that agenda. First is the Sewer Connection Fund funding recommendations. This will be with Planning and Public Works. Next is the Puget Sound Nutrient General Permit briefing, also with the department staff. And then finally, you have ARPA Sewer and Water Program Status Report, again with department staff. At noon is your regular Tuesday study session. It's just the usual agenda items. And I will note that while we did add an executive session last week, at the end of the day on Friday, schedules changed for the prosecutors, and we are going to reschedule that executive session to next Monday, so a week from today during study session. So just disregard that highlighted executive session. And at 3 p.m. is your regular council meeting. On Wednesday, the 9th, beginning at 9:30, you do have your select committee on homelessness. There are 2 presentations or discussion items here. The first is safe parking in Pierce County. That will be with staff from Homeward Bound. And then you have a discussion of homeless funding, and that will be with Human Services staff. So those are your meetings for the remainder of this week.
Thank you. Are there any questions before we come back to the amendment in Community Development Committee this afternoon? Not seeing any. Mr. Kruger, we'll ask you to brief on the amendment to the Sustainability 2030 update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I would characterize these amendments as largely technical. When council adopted Sustainability 2030 several years ago, the adoption ordinance had various sections that talked about the importance of the work and what it all means to the county. This amendment before the committee this afternoon would reiterate several of those sections and basically carry them forward. And so the items are, number 1, the county would recognize that Sustainability 2030 is Pierce County's greenhouse gas reduction policy for purposes of RCW 70.45070. That's a state mandated obligation. The second change would be inclusion of language that indicates that there's an expectation for semi-annual reports provided to the council describing the progress made towards implementing the various action items that are within the Sustainability 2030 plan. The next section would indicate that the items that are within the plan are non-regulatory strategies, and that there is no actual obligation to do the items that they're budgetarily dependent. And then the final section requests a environmental health and equity assessment for each of the action items that are identified in the plan, that helps the council determine how to move forward with implementation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kruger. Are there questions for Mr. Kruger? Councilmember Kruger.
Thank you, Chair. The section 4. Is it on? Thank you. On section 4, it has progress towards implementing the actions. Does it also give the results of the actions?
I think it would. I mean, that would make sense. We have been receiving those reports in committee. And I think that the department does a pretty good job of showing what they have done to implement certain actions and the progress that's being made. They also, go into some detail regarding items that are, partially completed, underway, as well as those items that haven't been started yet. And so we have been receiving those reports. I believe the committee has another anticipated report coming from the sustainability group in the fall prior to budget. So you'll be able to understand what's happening with implementation as you're making your decisions on funding the next biennium and the work that's described in the plan. Thank you.
I'm thinking more in terms of the cause and effect. I mean, we can have all the numbers of how many metric tons or parts per million have been reduced. I want to know how much cleaner the air is and how is the air quality now versus how is it after we've implemented all these measures and the effect on that. Will those be?
I don't believe we've seen that level of detail in any of their report outs. So that would be a question that I think maybe you would like to ask the department this afternoon at committee.
Thank you.
To see how they respond to that sort of question and just what it would take to get to that level of detail.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Kruger, I suspect it's going to come up in committee. Can you, the last section of the amendment request the department produce a an environmental health and equity analysis for the action items. The department should be prepared to just, we're getting more used to equity notes and equity analysis. How it's different, what's different about an environmental health versus an equity analysis. I think if there can just be prepared to speak to that, I think that'd be helpful.
That sounds good. I'll pass that on to the presenter.
It's on page 32.
Thank you. Anything else? Not seeing any. Thank you, Mr. Kruger. Thank you, Ms. Long. We're at item number 4, discussion of administrative items. Ms. Murray.
The only item I have of note is that we were reached out by the governor's office, who is going to be in the area on September 8th and October 4th. And he is interested in looking at anything that you would like to discuss with him related to housing, climate, or clean energy in terms of a project or program that's going on in your area. They made mention that he's often in cities and is able to do that work then, but so it's really interested in something that's going on in the unincorporated area. So if you have suggestions for a visit from the governor, please send them my way and we'll transmit them on and see how that fits into his schedule.
Thank you, Ms. Murray. Item number 5 is other business. Do any members have any other business for your study session today? Not seeing any. Ms. Long or Ms. Murray, any other business today?
Not today, thank you.
Seeing no other business before the Pierce County Council, we are adjourned.